20jan15 Main Street. And the roll call is Janet Pesatoro.
Jim Stone.
Brian Barabee.
Liz Lucluse, Rory Berman.
Karen Overville.
And Carol Bumbright.
Okay, so first I want to let everybody know that I have to leave at 9 to go pick up my son, but we may be able to actually finish because it's a fairly easy agenda.
Schedule. Sure.
So we're going to really try for that. So I guess we're going to do the administrative business first in these 15 minutes. Carol, do you have any bills, mail, correspondence?
Yes. So I do have one bill that I'm putting forward, but I didn't print out the bills payable sheet. So I'll just have you vote on it, and I'll put that together afterwards. So this is just for mileage. This month, they started using the town vehicle that we had with the DPW maintenance person. I don't think he had a vehicle, so the times that I've been out recently, I've been using my own vehicle, so I put in for mileage on that. And the total of that right now is just $13.10.
Okay.
A couple of announcements that I had are, start with a couple of other meetings that are coming up. So one is that next week we're going to do the 7 o'clock budget discussion, which we have on also for discussion, and then 8 o'clock we'll meet here with Pam and Don Lowe, Pam Powell from the town clerk, and Don Lowe to talk about open meeting and that kind of stuff. Okay.
Where will we meet at 7?
At 7 it'll be in the town hall where the advisory committee's meeting is in the main hearing room, so this meeting room. And then there's a couple of other meetings that are coming up. One on our agenda, you'll see that for next meeting, Mass Electric is coming in at 8:15 for a request for determination. It's a fairly small project that they're coming in to us with, but they're also going to the Board of Selectmen. And it looks like they're replacing a lot of, or adding a lot of poles on Waterquatic Hill Road. And the one that they're coming into us for is actually on Ballville Road. With that, there's a lot of trees flagged on Waterquatic Hill Road, and I've had some inquiries by people, as to whether all the trees that are flagged are actually being cut and cleared. And I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think it might be worth at the selectmen's meeting anyway. Somebody asking about that, and then because ours is going to be a little more defined, probably just at the Ballville Road.
It has Verizon listed as well for the selectmen's meeting.
Yeah.
It's NSTAR
It's
and
petition of Verizon, New England, and Mass Electric. So I guess
if they were putting in.
I think that they've
Unless
got
it's fire
so they've got other lines. They've got lines and poles going in, and
Is this on conservation land or is there?
no, the one that's
quite a long
well,
time.
I don't know that there's anything down at Fifeshire. It was more up by the it may be conservation. It's in front of like the a piece of the trust owns across from the winery.
Yep.
And then as you go up towards Sunset Ridge, I know there's some other trees along through there. There wasn't anything in front of Fifeshire that I saw. So anyway, the selectmen's meeting is this Thursday to talk about that. And it looks like they've actually got some also on, no, I guess that's Waterquatic as well. Kind of at the intersection of Waterquatic and West Berlin.
Old Bay too. I think it was a lot of Waterquatic. There was one for Old Bay, and then this is the first Ballville.
Yeah, it looks like West Berlin Road as well. So anyway, that's this Thursday night. Then
I might, if I do go, I will ask the question about the trees. I'd say
Yeah.
I'm 50-50 for going.
I would imagine, I mean, I did have inquiries, so I mean, imagine hopefully
I
people.
just had questions because we live along there as to what it was going to be.
Yeah. Okay, well, that'd be great. The planning board's got a couple of meetings coming up. One is to go over their articles for town meeting, and so they've got some amendments to the town code for the zoning bylaws, special one in the mixed-use village overlay district. They've got something in a couple in the middle mixed-use village overlay district. Let's see. And they've got something on that relating to commercial boarding or training of in training for kennels, commercial breeding kennels, domestic charitable corporation kennel, personal kennel, and veterinary kennel. So I haven't seen I haven't read any of their changes, but those are all on file with the town clerk, and then they're having a public hearing on it, which they're required to do before they go to town meeting and have a vote, so February 11th. And then also on their agenda of February 11th is, I mentioned, I think, at the last meeting, there's a new common driveway being proposed at 147 Long Hill Road, and that's, the reason I mentioned it was because it was a parcel of land that had been in chapter land and came out. So they're having a public meeting, public hearing on the backland lot special permit application and common driveway special permit application. So I know that they are having the town engineer, who we use at Century Mill, Fred Hamway, do the engineering review for drainage. I mentioned to him my quick look, which was just a real fast look at the plan, was that they've got, that's off of Long Hill Road, you come down a hill into the wetland, and then you go up the hill to the upland area, and they're crossing a wetland. And they proposing to do their stormwater on either side of that wetland. So that means the clearing is all along the edge of the actual, vegetated wetland area, which I get that it's the low point, but I said to him, is it possible that, there could be smaller areas of stormwater detention, up gradient, so that it wasn't all adjacent to the wetland where they were clearing, the larger areas. So I haven't looked at it that carefully yet, and they haven't provided any comments, but that was one thing. I think the other thing I need to look at is, I have to look and see if they gave the full locus, they haven't filed with us yet, but when they do, we'd be looking at whether, they're crossing at the narrowest point. It's a fairly large area, so, and I'm not quite sure that they gave the whole locus on the plan I saw.
Is it gonna be a mini Century Mill with a little bridge and the culvert and mini and stuff?
Well, it would be a wetland crossing, and they are using, I believe, a culvert, and maybe more like Houghton Farm in a way. Well, in terms of they are showing retaining wall. So I also commented on that, about, the retaining walls are such a barrier, for wildlife to get over. I mean, yes, they can get maybe in through the culvert, but some of the time the culvert's full. So I haven't looked at the design to see how oversized the culvert is, or whether or not it's going to meet, stormwater standards, but that's something that's coming up February 11th.
Do you want to look at that with someone on the commission?
I'll try to bring it to the meeting next time, so that we can all take a look, and or if you wanted to come in and look at it,
yeah,
that would be fine too.
I think it's a good learning opportunity as a new person.
Yep.
And also just to more eyes.
Yep. Yeah, because we have a few things on the agenda next time, so it might be good to look at it a little bit in advance before the meeting too. So the other couple of announcements is, one is there's a reminder that if you're looking to sign up for the MACC annual conference, we should probably talk a little bit about that, just because I know Liz has indicated an interest, and so we've got a certain limited amount in the training budget, but we have some money possibly to take from another account if we chose to do that, if we felt like it was important. So I think we need to, see how many people we're sending, and also that way you guys can communicate, so you're not all taking the same classes. And then there's also the Mass Land Trust, or Mass Land Conservation Conference, which is more on land protection, conservation restrictions, land acquisitions. There was one in particular that piqued my interest, and I mentioned it to Don Lowe today. One of them is called Pipeline Strategies in Article 97 lands.
Yeah.
And actually, so one of the people who's speaking is associated with our new council. So I mentioned that to him and said, let's see what we can learn. But there's other ones too. CRs not approved by the EEA, perpetual and enforceable. We've talked a little bit. We've had some people who've wanted to do those first. Actually, we've had some that have been recorded that way first, and then they see if they can get it approved by EEA. So I'll try to scan this in, or I have two of them. I'll pass one around now, and then try to get it out to you. That's in March. And I don't even look at the price yet on that one, but.
Is that something that we have a group membership to?
I
Was there-
joined, I don't remember if I had to pay to join, actually, or whether this is just coming to.
Coalition is what you.
Yeah.
Like, do they have a newsletter or?
I get an e-letter, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Information, like stuff to learn.
Yeah, they give, other things, upcoming things that they are, seeing on the horizon.
Now
So,
that you mention it, we're all supposed to be members of the MACC.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yes.
gotten any emails from them
Oh, you don't
in months.
Oh,
So
I
I-
guess.
you should be, so let's
I don't
check
know
on
that
that.
You know, I haven't either
Membership.
recently, yeah.
Oh, really?
I don't know
Yeah,
if my
I
membership
know,
would
maybe.
get activated.
make sure my
Now,
emails-
in fact, there was one today.
Yeah, there was one today. I thought.
Yeah, and I didn't get that one.
No, you guys didn't?
We
I got it.
must
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
not be registered as
No,
members.
I know I've gotten emails from you before, but I haven't, now you said it, I haven't
Well,
gotten
today's
one.
was, their MACC advocacy, and so it had some of the, things about the governor's offices and stuff like that. I didn't get through the whole thing,
I should,
but.
to be fair, I should double check my spam filters, because I know I've gotten them in the past, but yeah, now you said I really haven't gotten one.
All right, well, take a look. If you do see it in your
Let me
spam,
take a
then let me
look.
know,
If
but,
not, I'll-
if you're definitely not getting them, then I should be contacting them. Are you,
The last newsletter had tracking information.
Oh, really?
So that's, I was.
The one today?
No, last week.
Oh.
Yeah. so
Heinz,
we're
did you
going
get it?
wildlife
I'm looking
tracking.
now,
Yeah.
I started filtering those emails out.
No, it's just a woman writing an article.
It's been months
She's
since
also
I've
a
done
tracker.
it. I'm pretty sure I'm not registered.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure I'm not considered a member. It's been months since I've gotten it.
Well, but I paid for you in July.
I believe you.
So we should make sure that they know that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'll check. Okay, so let's see if I had any other announcements. And I think everything else is under the agenda items.
Okay, so nothing here under your minutes, yeah, your minutes were still pretty good.
Yes.
So I make a motion, we approve the minutes from January sixth, 2015.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Prepare for budget meeting?
So for the budget, I guess I just wanted to see if anybody had checked their calendars and was definitely going to be there, which is again next week, next Tuesday, the 27th. So yes, Liz, you're gonna go. And
Looks
Brian, you
like it.
weren't sure, I think, last time we talked. Still not sure? Okay.
I'm very hopeful, my wife may or may not have
Oh,
to
to travel, right,
Yeah, she's-
right.
And she's not happy about not knowing about it right now either.
Okay. So one of the things that Karen and Brian and I talked about was also bringing up at that meeting, the discussion about Tennessee Gas and whether or not the town was preparing to have any funds available in case there needed to be consultation or whether there was engineering or any other, funding that we have not put anything in our budget, but we thought we should raise it to see if somebody was at least making them aware of it, if they're already on for some reason. Was there anything more that you?
No, regarding the budget meeting, that was just that it might not come up in next fiscal year just because of the rate this will move along, but, just for them to be aware that we might be asking for funds for legal assistant consultation, but that it is something that we might actually put as a line item maybe next fiscal year or going forward when we have an idea when things will come into place.
Do we need to increase our training budget since we've had 4 new members?
Well, we did increase it a little last year.
Okay.
So it's not that we can't consider doing that again, but more than likely with what we're asking for at this point, that we may have to cut it from somewhere else. So I guess that's what I was thinking, that at this point, we didn't put it in December, any more money. But we could look at what we have left, as we are moving into the next half of the fiscal year and see if there's areas that we think that we could pull from if more people want to go to the conference or if somebody wants to go to the Mass Land Trust Conference and, if there's some other ones that come up.
Did we use it all last year?
I'd have to check. Let me see. Did I bring that?
this going back
Three
to
minutes.
Tennessee Gas Council issue, does it have to
Yes,
come?
so I kind of said, we used more than
Oh, we did
what we
use-
had, but last year it was lower. Last year we had $300 and we went over.
Does the council money have to come from Conservation Commission versus the town, or could it be distributed from various budgets from different?
Well, most budgets, the way they're done is very tight, you know, so there's not any, and so there may be, selectmen usually do have money in for legal counsel, and I don't know where they are with that, but this is really, this might be just more above and beyond what they normally expect in the course of a year if there was issues that arose, whether it was, you know, surveying trespass or, you know, just, I don't know what might come up, but there could be something that, you know, we'd have to get counsel involved with. I mean, the whole Article 97 thing, you know, if we can learn something from town council, you know, in advance, that might be really good, you know, but how we're paying for that, I don't know, you know. So I think it's really a heads up to them, and they have to kind of figure out where they put it. Did they put it with the selectmen's law budget, or did they put it, you know, in, you know, different conservation and the selectmen? I mean, it's, I don't know what the idea might be.
So did we get budget for council last year?
No, because they don't usually give us directly in our budget. So it's just so the process is if we need to use town council for something, we talk to the town administrator about it, and then he determines whether or not there's any other sources that could help us answer those questions, you know, or, I mean, first we're supposed to do that too, but,
Yeah.
you know, if you get to the point that you're asking for it, then, you know, he gives the authorization, and then we go directly to council and work with them on whatever the questions are.
Yep.
Annual report?
I guess, so we have to submit the annual report at the end of the month, and so I just thought I'd throw that out there, see if anyone has anything particular that they think that we want to talk about from last year. I mean, I think one thing that's of note is that we have full members and a
Yeah,
full
that's
board,
a-
you know, and we haven't had that for a couple of years, so it's, you know, again, it's,
Closure to Fifeshire, I'm sure that was on there, but that's a big one this year.
I still keep seeing ads for new members. Hope we're not paying for them.
usually those are just running as, but I'll have to let them know that we do have a full board. Yeah, I would like to, I did send an email today trying to see whether the state has reviewed our application to completely close it out, so that would be even a better way to put it in. But, yeah, so the annual report goes to the end of December, so we'd report through December. And then the fiscal budget is the whole fiscal year, so we don't always have everything in there for that.
I don't know if it's worth I'm just trying to think of things we generally crow about. With the cross-country teams from Harvard, the Bower Springs is, you know, it's really the crown jewel of the outdoor track circuit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've extended it to Harvard users as well, seeing our Borders Harvard. Accomplishments are positive things.
Yeah, and there were other, the walks in the trail committee, that would be another
Yeah.
thing.
Involvement in the pipeline, I think that's something that we can tout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been time consuming in terms of filtering through things and even just as agenda
And
items.
just tracking, yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, anyway.
That's all right.
that's, yeah, yeah.
So usually what I do is I'll go through the minutes and sort of look at the highlights from that as well and note the numbers of meetings and membership and stuff like that. Then I'll try to have a draft. Even if I didn't get the draft to you guys before the end, you know, it takes a while for that to all get processed, but yeah, I wanna get it. I'm getting ready to get going on it.
Okay. All right, so we're ready to move on to wetland administration?
Sure.
Okay, so 715 Elworthy, 108 Spectacle Hill Road, request to release surety funds, that's related to the replication area.
Okay, I'll just file it.
This is an old one.
Yeah, I don't know
This is an old one.
Probably sort of familiar with this.
So, got a letter from Ducharme Dillis that said that they prepare this report as an update on the condition of the wetland replication area and mitigation plantings, as well as success of the invasive species work that's been performed on the site. And they had done a site visit back in September to evaluate the success of the wetland replication and mitigation plantings after the completion of the first growing season. They said that we note that overall site conditions were dry with low water levels observed in the adjacent pond. The intermittent stream that runs east of the replication area was also dry. Despite these conditions, the wetland replication plantings were found to be alive and thriving. The red maple trees, northern spice bush, high bush blueberry shrubs all supported leaves and appeared healthy. We also note that there was evidence of deer browsing on some of the shrubs. The cinnamon fern all survived, and the emergent wetland vegetation was developing throughout the replication area. This past spring and early summer, the replication was inundated with surface water, which may have contributed to the success despite the dry fall. And I did observe that with them as well. Restoration, mitigation, planting adjacent to the driveway and trailhead down by the pond was also inspected. All the plants had survived, and all the disturbed areas were stabilized with either vegetation or natural wood chips, which they had come back and asked us about using wood chips, if that would be okay. In October, the applicant again removed invasive plant species in accordance with the invasive species management plan for Lot 1, Spectacle Hill Road. And so then Ducharme Dillis performed another site visit on October 28th with the commission administrator, that's when I saw the whole thing, to examine plantings, evaluate effectiveness in the invasive plant removal, and determine whether the erosion control could be removed, excluding the replication area. It was determined that the plantings had survived and the site was stabilized sufficiently to remove the erosion control. Furthermore, we determined the invasive species work performed had been successful in controlling invasive plants. In summary, the replication and mitigation plantings have all survived, and the site is stabilized and free of invasives after one full growing season. So the applicant's requesting the return of additional escrow money based on that bond agreement. So we had, in that order of conditions, we had bonded money for the driveway because it was within the resource area, and we had already released $18,000 to him for those costs, and the replication area, they submitted $14,490, so they're looking for half of that back. And the invasive species removal was $1,500, and so they're looking for half of that back. So
7,245 plus 750. Is that what I'm hearing?
Say it again.
It sounded like 7,245 plus 750. Was it 7,490? I mean 1,490.
Hang on, let me just get my calculator up.
Sorry.
1474.
So 14,490.
1,490. All right, so half of that.
7,245.
Yeah, and it was 1,500.
Yeah.
So 7,995. Right.
Yeah.
And what's your recommendation?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. The, as I said, the replication stuff was all done, the mitigation plantings were looking fine. And in this case, I don't know if you remember those of you who knew the site, a lot of the invasive was up at the front of the site, and it had been a disturbed area where they had had some farming in the past and then not done it after so many years, and a lot of that just got excavated out. So I think that was part of the reason for the success. But they still were working on some side areas, so they were kind of branching further back, once they got the initial driveway stuff out. So hopefully it'll continue to be improved upon. So anyway, yes, I would recommend that you release the
Okay, so I
half for each.
make a motion that we release the $7,995 of the surety to Ellsworthy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, next is Brookfield Farm Nominee Trust, Corn Road. Discuss compliance with an order of conditions.
Okay, so we have two people here who are interested in this one, so I don't know if you want to let them come
Oh,
up
do you want to come up to the table?
Sure.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Russell Sandler. This is Cindy Kerr.
Hi.
You can have a chair.
Just pull another chair up.
Yeah. So Russell used to sit around this table like you all do, just so you know. And Cindy's been familiar with the commission. She bought a property that had an order conditions, and so just kind of gone through things. But you want me to start a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So there's a common driveway that Maria actually lives on, so she's familiar, and Russell lives on. And this is off of Corn Road. If you are headed down Sugar Road and you continue to the overpass, but then you keep going straight and it turns into Corn Road, almost directly to the left then is a common driveway that serves 6 houses, 7?
Five.
Five houses. And before the houses were there and the development was there, there was a large tract of land that had some hazardous wastes on it. And the Conservation Commission, when I first started here, so around 2000, they were very involved in trying to get that site cleaned up. And the owners at the time seemed to not do everything so that it worked out fairly well. Like they moved things around on the site, or there might have been stuff that leaked when they were trying to move stuff around, but they really weren't following DEP protocol so much. And the commission was kind of the ones who was really coming down and trying to make sure that what they did was done correctly. So long and short, another company came in that, to my understanding, that's what they do. They come in and they clean up sites and then they turn them around for development. So they come in and get out. They don't usually build the houses so much. They try to get the lot sold, that kind of thing. That's Brookfield Farm Nominee Trust. So they were the company that came in to do that. And they did, and they did all that work, and they went through the public involvement process and had, meetings with boards of health and DEP and conservation and so forth. So Russell's trying to sell his property, and there's one order conditions that came up in the title search, I believe, is how it came up, that hadn't been closed out. Now, that's not to say everything's closed out, but there's one that's been identified by the attorney that is of interest to them to try to get closure on so that they can move forward and sell the lot. And it's for the cleanup. So, and it's not necessarily, it wasn't clear when I looked initially at the order conditions, that it was, that Russell's lot was even involved. I wouldn't have known at that point because the order conditions didn't specifically reference lot numbers, I don't think, but somehow they picked it up, so.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. And so I tried to, I guess last week, Cindy came in and we looked through the file and we tried to pull out anything that might seem helpful and relevant to moving it towards completion, because the work appears that Brookfield Farm Nominee Trust left around 2003, 2004 maybe at the latest. I'm not sure when they completely were out of there, but it's been close to 10 years. So the couple of things that were right on top of the file were from 2003, and one of them was a letter from me to Brookfield Farm Nominee Trust, Jonathan Bedard, who was our contact, that really just outlined the things that are in the order conditions that are needed for certificate of compliance. And then I also had included in this letter like a sample letter that we use to give to a bank or to give to someone when they're trying to close on something, that if everything's been pretty much done but the site's not stabilized yet, and so they want something that says they're moving in the right direction and we don't see any issues. So anyway, we did send a letter. I sent a letter saying basically that same thing, that this was January 28th, 2003. At your request, a representative of the commission reviewed the as-built plan entitled Certificate of Compliance, blah, 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 and conducted a site inspection of the property. The work within the buffer zone appears to be in substantial compliance with the plans approved in the order conditions. When the site is stabilized in accordance with the order and no further work in the wetland buffer zone is required, please submit the items required in the order and identified more specifically by letter January 13th. And that's the end. That's kind of all we had, so nothing seemed to come back in at that point. the attorney who's working with, Russell, is he working with you?
Yep. Steve Graham, yeah.
Grant. He sent me today 2 things that he searched for with DEP that indicated that the response action outcome had been closed. So when there's a hazardous waste site, there's all these steps that they go through, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with them. And my memory of all the steps is not that clear anymore, but there's, you start with like a release action plan that's gonna happen, and then you have another RAM plan. You have all these different stages that get, as the work gets done, they start to call it a different type of thing. And so, anyway, I believe that this is what they're calling the RAO, which is the response action outcome. And in our order of conditions, we had asked them to provide the RAO, so as something to show that it's been closed out. So it seems like, well, when I went back to the as-built that was referred to in the letters, all I could really tell and remember, yeah, that's not the as-built one, the colored one.
Oh, okay.
But yours isn't colored, but I can pass it around. So as an as-built, it listed plants that they had planted, but it didn't have any topography, it didn't have any other like locations of where maybe they graded, if they removed anything. But I have to say, it's like 4 or 5 inches of file material, and I didn't really, since last week, I haven't gone through it tooth and nail to sort of see all the stuff that's in there. So I had said, maybe they could also bring some photographs to show that the site's been stabilized and what's kind of growing there and how it's looking. 'Cause even though I've been up there last year, I guess it's not in my mind exactly, I wasn't looking at the plants, I suppose, when I went there, so it wasn't really clear in my mind either. And then, I guess, and not to put the words in your mouth, but Russell's got a closing coming up at the end of the month, right?
Right, February 4th.
Okay, so the
Yep.
beginning of next month, and so they're trying to figure out if what we kind of have in the file is sufficient for the commission to issue a certificate of compliance, or if there's anything else. Now, the only other thing that we've been trying to get is something from the engineers who were involved. The firm was Goldsmith, well, it's on that plan, GRP, I think, or something like that.
Creston, Redwall.
Yeah. And so and the guy who they thought would be most familiar with it was on vacation until tomorrow, so the attorney couldn't reach him today or get anything further on that. So that's, I think, kind of where we are.
So Cindy has some pictures.
I took pictures tonight. So it kind of will explain it. The first one is just driving to his house.
Right, so it's.
I'll pass them around.
Right, so we'll make a left off of
This is
Corn
driving
and
down.
come down the access road. So when you come down the access road, this is pretty much the area.
And this is the area.
Right, so see the little spot in there marked hazardous, right, so that's by the curve, that's right about
If you're
there,
taking it at
right.
night, came up
So
with-
as
There's
you,
about
as
10
you drive in, there's about
kinda hard.
10 pine trees or
The
whatnot.
last one's on the left side.
That kind of marks the area.
There's trees, it's planted.
So if you look at the as-built that they submitted, it has a list of plants, trees and shrubs that they did plant. It didn't, my recollection is that they planted a lot of stuff. They didn't plant everything, but if you look at it today, I think it's probably successionally taken over and, come in with.
Looks pretty vegetated.
Yeah, it looks pretty
It is.
vegetated from the
It's-
pictures.
It's, very tall, yeah.
So I think, so the question is, do you feel like you need something from the engineers to substantiate this? Again, I've got a letter there that says a commission member reviewed everything and found everything substantially in compliance other than site stabilization. They've given us the closure on the RAOs. It's not, so again, the as-built to me was not what we traditionally get for an as-built, but if they came back today to say, well, what more specifically were you looking for? Actually, let me just look and see if there was something in that part.
So the hazardous waste cleanup part of it was all
Has been
done
completed.
satisfactorily?
We were just waiting on
Yeah.
stabilization and.
So normally, you know, we get a written statement by an engineer, so I think that was one thing that we didn't have. And then the as-built, normally, what we were asking for was location of all buffer zone work, final grades, replication areas, and any additional information to aid the commission. So, again, I don't remember the details enough to say whether there was changes in grades that we were looking for. There's another filing that was done for the driveway. That's the one I also actually was surprised didn't come up, because I don't think that one was ever closed out either.
Right. That's what I was expecting you to talk about tonight.
Yeah, and that order of conditions was appealed by the applicants at the time, and it was a superseding order of conditions was issued by the state, so the commission can't issue the certificate on that one. But anyways, I mean, that one, I would, normally in that case, I would be looking for the as-built to show the culvert, and there was wetland replication and stuff like that.
Right, so Jonathan Bedard didn't give you that document?
No, and I don't actually even remember if he was the one who filed that application or not.
Who would?
I don't know, I mean, it may have been him, but I just don't remember, I'd have to look back to see.
So Russell, would this stop you from closing?
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah, it would, it would make it definitely challenging.
But it didn't stop you from buying that house?
No.
It's weird.
Well, I don't know that this even came up when we bought it.
Well, it sounds like it should have.
Yeah.
There's been 3 houses.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah.
Closed since.
Actually,
Right,
4.
right, so
Yeah.
Eric
Oh, yeah,
sold and
well, we
Eileen
built
and this
after.
one
Yeah,
and
every house is sold there but me, so it's
Right,
been all 4
that's
homes that
true,
have
yeah.
changed multiple times.
Right.
So I'm surprised that this is coming up now.
Right.
But it's good to, resolve it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what our ultimate goal is to, see closure on the file, so.
Right.
It's just, so the question is just, what do you think, are you satisfied with the information we have? Do you think that we do need something from the engineer? Do we need to look at it? We have one more meeting before his closing is to occur, so, I don't know.
I'm curious with Maria, since you're much more familiar with this,
I mean, I think it's fine, I don't think there's any issues, it's over a 10-year period. There's plenty of, there's, growth has come in, the growth is just out of control. It's almost too much, but, I see no issues at all.
Yeah.
And it was a long time ago. And, there are monitoring wells there. That's all, that he put in and installed and are still there. That's the only remnant that's left of those wells.
Yeah, I don't know anything about whether DEP just keeps them there permanently, or,
I assume so.
yeah.
We're not gonna touch them. And there have not been any issues.
to monitor with whatever waste was in there?
Before, once he cleaned out the area, he had to put in monitoring wells to monitor the water for a period of time before he was given the go-ahead to kind of parcel out the land and sell it. And anybody who bought that property had access to all that data. I mean, I got all that data that said, here's all the cleanup that we did, here's when we did it, here's the results of the water. And, I had my attorney look at it and there were no issues.
Okay.
I mean, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, and I think that's how the town felt as well.
Yeah. My only concern is really the
That they didn't
common-
close out some stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was based in New York, he was not easy to reach,
Yeah.
so. But to my knowledge, I don't see any issues at all. I think it's perfectly fine, I think they did a very good job. I wouldn't have lived there if I had concerns.
So, you know what, I don't have a form if you're gonna actually vote it tonight, but, let me see if I have anything blank. Not. I mean, I guess I would still be interested in seeing what the engineer has to say, just to wrap it up myself, but, let's see.
So do you need an engineer to wrap it up, or do you need the, what was it? A qualified wetland biologist or a replication consultant? Is that what you need?
I think the commission has that expertise enough if, on the plantings. Again, I don't know, all I know is what they show in the as-built, that they didn't plant everything that was required, but it's been over that period of time, I can't, as you're attesting, it sounds as though, everything's growing in. It's not like you're seeing areas that nothing grew, right? You're
No.
not seeing any?
No.
There
Just the
isn't,
opposite.
Yeah, it's really kind of a wild meadow area.
Yeah.
And it is wet up at the front, you know, there's a waterfall there, there's water. But there were some pine trees that he planted initially, many, many years ago. Some of them did die, but other plants have come up in their place. And actually Russell was pretty good about, you know, keeping the driveway clean.
Yep.
That's what some of the pictures were from the pine trees.
Right.
There was a whole, like
Right.
a 10.
Yeah, a lot of them took,
cluster
some of them
pine
didn't
that-
take, you know, 2 pine
original.
trees died, but other plants have come up. I mean, it really is almost wild.
Yeah, it's pretty though, it's done
Yeah.
very well.
You can see more now because a lot of the vegetation is, you know, died back through the winter, but in the summertime, it's just, it's wild.
No major invasives?
Yeah, at the top, there's some Japanese knotweed, yeah, it's been pretty bad. But other than that, I don't see too much. Though I'm not an expert on invasive species, but it's actually pretty pretty with, there's a lot of wildflowers there too. So a lot of
Well, I know it says on the
wild-
as-built that they used a conservation seed mix. I don't
Yeah.
remember what was in that at
So
the
in
time.
the summertime, it's attractive.
So I don't have a certificate of compliance form. I mean, it
Oh.
was, so I guess if you want it, we can keep it on for the next meeting, and if you wanted to look at it, you could do that in between. We could see if we get anything more from the engineer. But it doesn't sound like, from what everyone's saying, that you feel like we need to have anything else, or do you? I'm not sure.
I don't know. You know the case best, I'll go with what it is.
I mean, no, there's
Yeah, I
nothing.
don't feel like-
We've got boots on the ground to look over that.
yeah.
And if we have an address, is it possible that we do a drive-by, at least a few of us? And by that time, then we'll have the commission have looked at it.
Yep.
I think just to do it the way
Yeah,
we should do it.
Yeah,
Also, given that Maria lives there,
Mhm.
so might just do the right thing and go there and see it.
Sure. You
Although
can
the
see from the
pictures are
road.
great.
You
Oh, it's
can-
okay,
you
sure.
can drive, I would suggest
Yeah.
driving down the road,
Yeah.
Okay.
and you'll come to like a waterfall area. And it's just a little past that,
Yep.
right?
It's a
So
I
little-
mean,
you know,
you can't miss it, there's like
Yeah,
about
yeah.
a dozen green pine trees on your right-hand side, like just a small armada of trees right there, and that's right where it is.
A few on the left as well, but.
Is this time sensitive? It sounds like you're trying to
Yeah.
close
Well,
soon, and somebody's making a decision based
Yeah.
on the certificate of compliance?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, right, so the other attorney called up and said, hey, this is an issue, we need to get this taken care of. So,
Are they, I mean, I'm just wondering if it doesn't sound like we'll be able to get the certificate of compliance done by tomorrow, right? So is it gonna be
I'm sure if they know if it's in the works and it's a week or two, I'm sure we can.
Well, yeah, so we meet February 3rd, and his
Yeah.
closing's February 4th, so, you know.
Close.
make a
But-
decision then?
Depending on
Do it
snow.
faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys better get out there quick.
Yeah, I mean, I say,
Chop,
because it
chop.
could happen
I
tomorrow.
actually live right up the road,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's a mile
Right.
from here.
Right.
So we can't
Be
even,
tomorrow.
we can't vote to that pending people's drive-by
Due
review.
diligence.
Can we, or 'cause you
Um,
don't have the actual?
You know, if you're, it's up to you how you're comfortable with it. I mean, I think you could, and there have been a couple of times where the boards voted at the meeting and then not signed off, you know, had come in later to sign off after they looked at it or something, but I guess, you know, it's up to you. We do have another meeting right before there.
So we could do that, we could just each drive by and then come in, you once left it on your door, right, for us to sign, is that what
That's,
you were thinking
that's what I was
of
gonna
doing,
say,
or-
yeah, if we do
Yeah, if I'm not gonna
if
be
we
there.
do it, you know, pending,
If you're not
and
there,
just
yeah.
let everybody have a chance to drive by, and then either do a stop in with Carol.
So the only thing is if somebody goes there and has issues or concerns,
I
then
know.
there's not an opportunity to discuss that.
It seems like based on what Maria's saying,
I know.
Shouldn't be.
Honestly, I
shouldn't
wouldn't
be.
even have felt the need to drive by and go look myself,
I don't.
you wouldn't, like you said, you wouldn't live there if you didn't feel like
Yeah,
it was, I mean, the fact that you live there is, hearing everything I've heard, you know.
I live there, and we're next door, we're all neighbors, so.
and I was suggesting it because you were saying that the timeline meant that there was time to stop by.
Well,
But if
there's
it's
time,
too
there is
short-
time, but it is tight, you know, so I don't know if there's a time of day on the 4th, you know, if it's been scheduled. how early, but it does make it, I'm sure it's make it more nerve-wracking for them. If we
Yeah.
could do it sooner, then that's all the better.
And my quip about I hope it doesn't snow on the 3rd is not that funny. It's
Right.
not
That's right, it's
bad.
not funny, it's real.
It could very well.
I can tell you horror stories, yeah.
And I'd hate to hold it up, you know, when I don't really, I mean, I personally don't feel the need to.
Carol, I probably missed this, but what's exactly the order of conditions?
What was in the order?
Yeah,
We didn't talk about that. I didn't look that much at, it's older, so it probably,
Does this help? I have this.
no, that's just the
Oh.
requirement for the certificate of compliance. Let's see if I can find it. It was amended, so, again, I'm not sure I remember everything completely, but it was amended in 2002, and it was originally, it was originally issued, an original order of conditions was issued in 2000, October 2000, then it was amended, and from what I saw in the legal notice to amend the order, I think that's where I found it most helpful, was okay, so they requested to amend the order of conditions to allow all of the mass contingency plan response actions necessary under Chapter 21E, including but not limited to modifications of the referenced release abatement measures, Phase 2 investigations, monitoring well installations, field activities to support Phase 3 through 5 activities, which was soil, surface water, groundwater, and sediment sampling, and additional response actions, which could include removal of arsenic-enriched soils and sediments within the wetland resource areas. And such activities were to be done in a manner to minimize disturbance and mobilization of soil and sediment. Approval of a revegetation plan for all disturbed areas.
I mean, the property was an old farm, so there was an apple orchard that I think gave the arsenic problem. And then there was a pig mill in the back.
And
I
a
think-
sawmill.
And a sawmill.
A
And
what
those are the
mill?
two things I think are
Pig.
associated with the waste that has.
Should, pig.
Pigs, pigs.
What
Pig.
caused the
Farm,
arsenic?
pig mill.
Yeah,
This is it,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the pig farm.
Which of those was responsible for the arsenic?
yeah.
Well, the
No,
apple
the
orchards
apple
usually,
orchard.
yeah.
DEP actually,
Arsenic.
DEP actually did agree,
We were actually shocking about our house that we had no arsenic. Yeah, as
DEP agreed that the arsenic levels, they didn't have sufficient
Pesticide?
background
Yeah.
to be able to say that they needed to remove any more, anything else. So they did end up giving them, I do remember that part of the discussion, that they did find that there was gonna still remain arsenic in the ground, you know, because they couldn't claim that it was related completely to
The issue
that
that
front.
we're deciding on now is only the stabilization though, right? Is that what I understand?
Well, so all the work was related to the cleanup, as I read it in the amendment, right? So what we're looking at is, and I'll pass these around because I'm not that familiar with them, but this is again what the attorney sent me today. This is what he found on the website, the closeout from DEP. And so what they have in the picture, you know, if it's marked blue, it's closed. If it's, red, it's open, and they're showing them these as closed. And in my, I did have something,
Showing them as closed as they're all done. Is that what you mean?
yeah, like the file's closed. Let me see, I know I had, and I thought I sent to the attorneys some minutes, do you remember that? Did you make do you have that with you? What I gave you the other day? Did I only give you the letters?
That was the, I don't have the minutes of
No?
here.
I thought I had seen,
It's different. I remember you showing that to me though.
I didn't bring both files, because the other one nothing fits in the little box anymore.
I know what that is. Decrease.
But anyway, so in terms of what work was done in the order, that was it. It was to comply with the mass contingency plan, which was the cleanup of all the hazardous waste.
And
So-
DEP says it's cleaned up.
And so it would just be
It's an
stabilization.
admission, and I can't see how we
Right,
could.
and that's what our letter
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
except for, I think what we were saying in 2003 was that, yes, we think everything's done, but you still need to comply with the order, which was to send a letter from the engineer and to provide the as-built showing all the buffer zone work. That's what we were asking for in 2003.
Well, if there's a need for somebody to do a drive-by, I can definitely do that. I'm on the way to work tomorrow, because it's very close. 575 Sugar Road, but, you know, it seems like I'm probably not gonna, you know, I'll probably defer more to you than, you know.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can see, you
I
see
mean,
it every
it's-
day,
it's
you know,
You'll definitely
twice
see
a day.
the growth and the vegetation. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
like I said, it's wild.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything is pretty thick. And we've just, you know, nobody's touched it. We've just let it grow, and that's the way it is.
I don't need to drive by to verify what Maria has just testified to.
And I believe Maria, and I'm thinking about sort of the fairness issue in terms of if you didn't live there and if you weren't involved, the sort of, if we didn't know people, the right thing to do is one of us would drive by. And if you live right there, then it seems like sort of a fairness issue, and we can get it done pretty quickly within your timeline and Carol's timeline. And I don't need to drive by. I guess it's going.
What do we do here if we say pending someone's drive-by? What do we do if they don't agree with?
Well, it's pending that there's a satisfactory report from Heinz. And if he
Mhm.
feels as though there's any question, then it won't go, it won't be issued until the next meeting, then we'll have further discussion. And presumably, if he says, I really couldn't tell, and I really saw some stuff that looked like maybe there was dead vegetation in an area,
Maybe there'd
you
be
probably
other
wanna check it
things.
out.
Yeah.
Then you guys, we can
Yeah.
schedule a site
Yeah.
visit for the rest of you to take a
Yeah.
look, and try to do that before the third.
Should I just
I mean,
report?
Worst
back to you,
worst
you know?
case comes is that their closing's not our issue, right? It's, I mean, we're like them. We're trying to help them.
Right.
But, people close, as Maria said, the houses there have turned over 4 times, in some of them, and so
I was gonna say,
people
the
make.
same thing happened to me, and I found out about an order of conditions, like, the week after I bought my house, so it happened.
Yeah. And again, so my point was really just that sometimes people work things out,
Yeah.
they may extend the closing, but, I don't see anything that's saying that we shouldn't be issuing a certificate of compliance to close this out.
Yeah.
I guess it might, if I go back to the letter I wrote in 2003, we were looking for some things, the engineer to submit the letter, and we were looking for an as-built that was more significant than what they gave us, which was just that they noted what plants they planted. They didn't show where they planted them, but again, it's been 10 years, and
Yeah.
so
Does anybody
I don't.
know which
Right.
ones were planted?
Well, the
by
engineer's the
them?
only one I think who
Right.
would, that potentially they're the ones who worked the closest with, they're the ones who did the as-built plan, right? So you'd think that they must have something of record, that could be used.
It would shock me if they just had this as-built plan and some clerk pulls it up and says, well, apparently we planted this, that, and the other, and this is what we have.
Well, the guy that he was gonna call, is one of the principals, that he said, I think he talked to somebody today, and that's how it sounded to me, was that the person who'd been most involved was just on vacation till tomorrow,
Okay, so I make a motion that we issue the certificate of compliance, as long as Heinz, has no issues with, after his drive-by.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And so should I send an email out to the list?
To me.
Does that work, to you
Yep.
directly?
Yep.
Okay.
So was there a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, and so then, as soon as we know that, then, I can put it together and leave it for everyone to sign, so long as we get 4 people to sign, then it could be issued. So there's actually two. I think there was one under the wetland. Well, I'm not sure, actually, let me just see. It might have
Could it be a
been,
digital signature, or this
No.
is physical?
Yes, it's physical.
Okay. So somebody would have to, would I have to drive down to town hall to sign it?
Yep.
When the attorney
Okay.
brought up.
I mean, sometimes we've left it at the police station, you know, but let's see if we can get for people in who are local during the day, you know,
I
something.
should definitely.
So you want to go tomorrow?
I don't know, Heinz thinks they can go tomorrow.
You'll
Yeah, I
stay
can
back.
go.
So the only thing for me
Right,
is
right.
that
That's gonna be bad.
my husband's having
Thanks.
surgery tomorrow, so I'm leaving actually early in the
One down, one
morning.
to go.
Like, I'm only gonna be there from like 9 till 11:30, so if you can let me know, I can try to get it done and on the door by then. If not, Thursday, I should be able to do it.
Yeah, if not,
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
rush it tomorrow, right?
I'll either do it on the way to work, or if I work from home, I'll do it in the afternoon. I'll just stop by.
Okay,
shoot
so
it
it'll
over.
you know, sometime by the end of the week, hopefully, we'll
That's great.
be able to
So
get enough
just be careful
signatures.
too, when you come down, there's still, you'll say, oh boy, it's nice and dry, it's nice and dry, and as soon as you get to those little S curves,
This is small.
you will, because it's all ice right there. So just be careful.
Okay. And I have actually been up there once. Is there like a place to turn around? Because it's like a one-lane road. Is there like a little pull-off?
Well,
or something?
you could probably go into your driveway,
Yeah,
right?
you
Yeah.
can just come
So
down.
just
and-
keep going
Just,
and then
I
turn
mean, you'll
around.
see
The first
14.
driveway you hit on the left, you can turn in right there.
Yeah.
At
And
that
then
point,
just
you've
walk
gone
over.
past the area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll know.
Yep.
Once you reach his house. it's
But the little
road.
pullouts are actually on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So probably enough room to do
Yeah,
a few
so I mean, we
turns.
can do that, but I would just say, it's a little crazy bus stop time. After the
Yeah.
bus stop, you're all good.
Okay. I'll be at my own bus stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the 8:05 bus, it's all clear.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Was that mine,
Uh,
Heinz? I think it was.
yeah.
That was the one I brought, the copy.
Oh, that was your.
Yours-
I
yours
didn't know
was
if you
the color
needed
one.
that.
I don't, all right, you're right.
But you can, I mean,
No.
if you need it.
I could use it.
You wanna use it?
Yeah, wouldn't be
I
bad
mean,
if I could
do you-
use it.
Can you let
Oh, yeah,
Heinz
no,
use
that's
it?
fine. That was
Just
just a
hang on
copy
to it
you
for
she
the-
gave me.
is it-
How about, the
I
as-built
have the
one?
other one that's
Yeah,
right
'cause
today.
that's the one that
Just
shows.
shows the driveway.
Oh, this is the aspect.
Use those
The
together.
extent that it is
And
as-built.
so this area is right in here.
Oh, right in there, okay. All right.
You can see it on that other one.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Ready for Petro?
Yep. So I received a letter today from DEP, and they are again trying to contact Mr. DePietro, Alan DePietro, about the wetland alterations that occurred definitely in Stowe and potentially in Bolton. And they have scheduled, they have now are telling him that they're scheduling a site visit January 27th at 10. This is kind of at the request or recommendation of DEP's counsel. They felt like they needed to give one more time before they went to the magistrate, that they've tried every possible attempt to contact him. Today, I received an email with a photograph from the Stowe administrator showing that tracks going in and out of the property, so he's still working in there.
They were fresh tracks?
They were in the mud, frozen. So, yeah, they were definitely different from what we'd seen other times. So I'll try to take a drive by there as well. But anyway, so I am keeping my schedule open to attend that if DEP wants us to, which I think probably they would.
And he got a cease and desist from Stowe, right? Didn't he, or they
You know what,
tried?
they were working on that. I mean, I know that they issued a couple of letters, and I think at least one was a cease and desist. One was definitely a cease and desist. And then they were working, I thought that they were then going to their town council. That was the next stage, as I remember correctly, that they were going to their town council to see what else they could do in terms of any kind of injunctions or anything like that. But I'm not sure now that DEP's sort of poked their head up again whether they're maybe move forward separately or not.
So it's not like I go by there normally, but sometimes I'll look from cutting back roads, like my parents' house, like I could drive down there. It was just one of those, I wonder if I'm ever driving down and see somebody working in there, if it makes sense to call the Stowe cops and say, hey, I know there's a cease and desist, they're not supposed to be working in here.
You could, you know, and I would
That
say
makes
that you're a
sense to call
Bolton
and say,
Conservation, commissioner,
Yeah,
and,
I mean-
you're aware of the violation, and, there's somebody currently here working, and, if it was during the workday, it would be great to let me know, but it's probably not, because
Yeah,
you're not usually
yeah.
driving then,
No.
But only because then I could tell Kathy as well, but, yeah, hopefully,
Just one
I
of
don't
those,
know, I
yeah,
just don't
I'll try to
understand why the
think of
guy's
a
not
plan.
responding and cooperating, trying to deal with it, because,
Persistent.
yeah.
And when you go there, you'll have police with you?
Yes, we don't go there without police any longer.
Maybe a bulletproof vest.
Yeah. So,
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Still doing the work or something.
So, I'm wondering if we can do land management before land protection, because, like I said, I have to leave at 9, and I think I have more to say about the land management issues than the land protection issue. Is that okay?
it's fine with me.
Okay, so Cranberry Meadow, Burnham Road, there was that, you sent us photos of the tree that this person wants to remove for firewood. It was like at the edge of the wetland, kind of at the edge of his yard, if I looked at
Yeah,
that
he doesn't
correctly.
live there next to his yard, but it
Oh.
is next to a yard and it's next to the road. I think he's friends with the people who live next to it, which is why he happened to notice it or something, but he believe he's a resident as well. And,
Oh, so it's not his yard? I thought it was.
no, it's not his yard.
Oh.
But he.
It's,
So the
I think it's
grass-
in the meadow, the town-owned land.
Oh, the town
Oh, it's the
land.
town
Oh,
land?
Yeah, the
it's
conservation
different.
land.
Oh, I thought it was his yard at the edge
So he
of
wants
the
to
wetland.
cut one of our trees.
Yeah, that's different, that's a totally different thing.
Okay, let me see
I'm
if I
just trying
can.
to figure that out too.
Yeah. 'cause I
My
saw
knee
his
jerk was
grass.
just like, well, no, you really can't,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
then
you
everybody
really
can.
can. Yeah,
Like, I'd love to go cut down some wood on town.
Yeah,
owned
you know,
land,
at
like,
the edge of his
it'd be
yard,
really
that's
useful. I
different.
burned
Well,
it.
we have had people who have taken, who have asked us to take wood, adjacent to the trails, and which
makes
Mission
sense,
has let
yeah.
them.
Yeah,
So,
no, that makes sense.
If it
um,
needs thinning out, that's one thing, but that's
Yeah,
not why it's
But
doing
this is
it.
on town land and, adjacent to town land and a wetland?
right, it's right on the side of the road,
Yeah.
and it's definitely in a wet area, like the stream flows, I think, under it a little bit, and it's a fairly large tree, it's substantial. So,
It's still
maybe
live?
you should take a look at it. No,
No.
it came down a couple of years ago. I mean, he's been sort of looking at it and thinking like, oh, it's been dried out enough now, so
Yeah,
he's,
very good.
he's been sort of watching it for a while.
I'd like to get a chunk of that too, is my thing.
Yeah.
Shoot, I'd pay a lot for wood.
Hey.
Oh, it's already seasoned,
It's
shoot.
really
It's about
nice
half
that
a
he,
corn.
Yeah, I'll take it.
it's really nice that he asked, because a lot of people would probably just.
No, I was gonna say, appreciate
But,
that, yeah, but
well.
I wouldn't mind taking a look, but that's my whole thing, like, honestly, I'd like to take half of it myself.
Yeah.
Stuff's expensive, I burn it all year long.
And it's not his yard, so why
Yeah,
can't you
shoot,
take
if
it?
it's, yeah, I'll take some too.
So, yeah, no.
Well,
You're being
you know,
facetious, right?
What? No, I'm being completely serious. Like, wood's really expensive. We heat our house with wood for the most
I
part.
do too.
So, not that I don't, I'm glad that he asked. I thought it was really wonderful, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if if it was a nuisance thing. If he said, whatever, cars come down the road are having trouble seeing, or
Right.
it's causing some problem. But other than that,
No,
I'd say, like,
that's
I hate to say no, but.
It
For
seems
shoot,
like
I'll-
there's another part of the story that's
I'll be there to
missing.
cut mine up too. Yeah.
Yeah, just to say that he wants firewood.
I don't think that's the story.
That's what I'm yeah.
In a word, it's protected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
has
mean,
value.
I don't
You
think we
of
should approve.
dying
For,
trees
yeah, I
has
was gonna
value,
say,
but it does have
it's
value.
habitat and, yeah.
It is habitat, so I can't see any reason to let him take it, to be honest. Like you said, he can take it,
Well,
and everybody
and
can
I-
take
Sure.
again,
conservation land.
and I'll just say, we used
Yeah.
to, years ago, the town had firewood program where people would go out and take wood
Yeah.
from conservation land, so.
Well, it might have been different, like, in the old, I don't know how long ago you're talking about, but I know in the
From the
past.
70s, 1970s.
Okay, people thought that these were a hazard, a fire hazard, but they're not really. I mean, the downwood.
Yeah, I don't know I think it was, the land was owned by the town, and it was something that they thought that the townspeople would benefit by. It was something that, and I think they probably thought the forest benefited by it as well, but
Yeah,
they
I
definitely
think-
thought, I think
Right.
it was a combination that,
Yeah, and
Well,
I
there's a
think.
difference between a town forest and conservation, isn't there?
That's just,
Yes and
isn't it
no.
a town
Yes,
forest
I
is
mean,
a piece of
it-
conservation, but
you
you
know.
designate, you say this is a town.
Right, yeah.
It's not
I
necessarily.
mean, you could manage them differently.
Yeah, but they aren't necessarily, it's just a piece of conservation.
Like the
you call
Stowe
it.
Town Forest is not managed as a town forest, you know, so it's a conservation land by virtue of it not being managed, you know.
But this isn't a town forest.
No, this is a wet
Right.
meadow bog.
If-
I don't
if
know
you had a-
bog,
you
but it's
know-
a wet meadow, wetland.
Did you have a recommendation? I mean,
No, I didn't. I mean, you know, I don't think normally we would say, go ahead in the wetlands and take, you know, wood out. But in the past, as I said, the commission has allowed people to take wood, you know, along the edges of trails and stuff, so.
I mean, usually we tell people if they have to cut trees, if they have to, leave as much as possible.
Right, so this is got a big stump that's still standing there, and then it's a big, large tree that's then toppled over,
Right.
you know,
I
so.
mean, you know, the edges of trails is a different thing, because I think where you're probably talking about is when trees fall and they're in the way, and then you have all that debris right on the side of the trail, you might say, well, that's kind of a nuisance to have it there, so someone can take some of this, right?
Safety issues too.
It's a safety
yeah,
issue, right?
yeah, and maintaining the trails.
And it also might be sort of the old-fashioned understanding, oh, the forest should be clean and tidy, you take out all the debris, but that's, you know, now known not to be a good thing. I mean, I don't know, I personally don't see any reason to let him take it, and if we did, then why shouldn't we let everybody go take firewood from fallen
Yeah,
trees?
I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just telling you that this request came in, I
Yeah,
did
no,
take a
I-
look at it, I sent you the picture, I should have shown you Friday when we were out on Burnham Road, because we
If he's
went
gonna
right
do
past
that,
it.
I'll take the wood out of my own wetland, which I can't do.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this isn't a buffer zone, or
no, it's in the wetland,
it's in the wetland?
yeah.
Okay, so back in the, long time ago, when we would allow this sort of thing, would we allow it in the wetland as well?
I don't think that they were in the wetland when they were doing it, but I don't really know, I've never researched that, you
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
either. I just know that it was a program that the town had.
Yeah.
More than likely, people.
Maybe we suggest that there's other places he can get, you know, firewood from, you know, the town forest that are, you know, trees down next to paths or something.
Don't go there. I think that we've had, so the conversations that we've had more recently about even that, like we had a guy who lives over near the Annie Moore Conservation Area, and he does some trail maintenance between his property and Annie Moore. And he had asked about taking some trees along the edges of the trails that he was maintaining. And so the commission, I think, had said fine, but they didn't want like any vehicle, like he was like, well, could I bring, you know, my vehicle up there or whatever, you know, to help me get it out? And everyone was like, no, you know, if you can put it in your wheelbarrow or you can carry it, whatever, that's fine, but we're not starting like, you know, having equipment
Yeah.
then going in,
Yeah.
you know.
The point being, there's other, you know, I mean, it's in the wetlands, so I can't see any reason why we would
Like I
allow
could
it.
see if it was trail maintenance, or if it was like a safety, like, you know, if it was blocking, you know, road views or
Maybe.
something.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, where there was some other issue, but whereas it's not really hurting anything.
Yeah.
We just gotta let it lie.
Yep.
Okay,
Well, on
so,
our application, we've required that people return line dead.
Yeah, or just
Yeah.
spike a tree rather than taking it down completely, yeah.
We want it there.
yeah. Okay, well, anybody wanna see it, or you wanna just say that that's your statement, you've seen the photograph, you're not in agreement to let it be cut?
The pictures are enough.
And I think it's the law, part of the wetland
You can
protection
cut
act,
some
isn't
wood
it?
in the wetland as firewood.
Okay.
There is an exemption that, not an exemption, it's under agricultural or forestry provisions or limited project, I have to look and see, but there's a certain amount of cordwood that you actually can take.
But if it was his property, that
Could
was
be
one
wrong.
thing, but it's not
Right.
even his property.
Right, and I think, and I'd have to look and see whether you still have to file. If it's a limited project, you still have to file. If it's an exemption up to a certain amount, then you don't have to file, but I'd have to look it up again to see. Nobody's ever requested it that way, so.
So if it was on your own property,
Right.
and
It's
you
a
were
wetland.
clean, and you were taking a small amount, you wouldn't have to file. That's
I don't
part
know, I
of
have to look at the regs. I know that there's
Yeah.
something that
I think I
allows you to
remember
take a
reading
certain
that.
amount of cordwood
Yeah.
from wetland. You know, either it's a limited project and you file to show it's a limited project, or there's an exception for it. I'd have to look it up again.
But on somebody else's property, which happens to be conservation or town,
Right,
then.
it's your prerogative.
Yeah.
What was the form of
request? Is it just an informal, can I have it, or is it?
Yeah, he called me and
That's it.
said that he'd been interested and been looking at this tree, you know, again, as I said, it's next to a friend of his or something, and came down a couple of years ago, and, you know, it looked like it would be, close to the road, and, yeah, and
Okay.
good firewood.
Well, you can tell them that all the commission members also said, can I have it?
Well, it sounds like.
We appreciate it, at least you request, at least you
Yeah,
say, I'm gonna
yeah, yeah,
ask
you
for
do.
it.
Appreciate the request, but
Sorry.
basically, and being in the wetlands, in the town wetland, you're saying no.
Yeah, it's good as favorable for habitat and just the overall health of the wetland.
Okay.
Okay, Welsh Pond Bog update, you had spoken to one of the Nishues.
Yeah, so I, you know, after our last discussion, I said that I would try to contact Nishways and see if they had noticed the beaver activity, you know, any more recently than we had, or how long they had known the beaver there. And so I spoke with Alan Nishway, and he said that this fall, beaver had seemed to have come back, and that they were maintaining the culvert to keep it open, that if they don't maintain it, that their fields get flooded. And so I said, you know, I'd be interested to see what extent of flooding, you know, that they see, you know, because it's, not, again, not the first time beaver have been there since they've had their farm, so. And then I also mentioned to them that we'd been walking, looking at the trails, because we're trying to connect from the Wattaquatic entrance and the West Berlin entrance, coming to Welsh Pond, and then trying to get out to Sawyer Road or back out to West Berlin Road, and that we had noticed that there were, looked like some test pit holes maybe. And so I said, you know, I couldn't really remember from their agricultural preservation restriction plan, there were a couple of lots that they had retained that they were gonna sell, and I think that it was in that area. And he said, yeah, we definitely have a couple of lots, but, you know, my other brother you'd have to talk to about it. So anyway, I didn't get all the information I needed, and I didn't get a chance to try to connect with them today. But that's where I'm gonna go next. The brother that he said I needed to talk to supposedly just had some knee surgery, and so isn't probably in the position right now of walking out with us. So it's just something to continue to follow. And then I haven't done anything else. I guess I wasn't completely sure really from the last meeting whether anybody wanted me to try to look at schools or groups to try to do any monitoring, but we've talked about a number of schools and groups. I just wasn't sure whether that was conclusive or
No,
not.
I would think that it could be useful to get the same group that you had do it before, just because, I don't know if they're using different testing protocols or whatever, but it might be apples and oranges if we're getting two different types of tests, but if.
Okay, so I did come across the name of the person, Terry Regan, who was at Minuteman, but again, it was a while ago. So I don't know whether he's still there or not, but I can try to see if he's still around.
I mean, I think it would be interesting to see what would they test, what nutrient like they're looking at, nitrogen and.
I don't really remember what, I mean, they didn't send it out to a lab, so they were doing sort of field tests. They were looking at turbidity, I think, and they may have done some, I can't remember if they did any sediment leveling tests, or, you know, to see where sediment was. I didn't go with them when they looked at Welsh Pond, I don't think. I did go with them a couple times. They did, I think I may have mentioned, but Quail Run. So when that subdivision went in, because the detention was so close to the wetland, the commission wanted that to be monitored to see if there was any impact on the wetland. And so you know, when I went out there, then they were mostly doing, measuring the size of the wetlands, and I honestly can't, I mean, they must have had some simple tests that they were doing, but I don't remember what they
Well, I
were.
don't know, I think it could be useful to have the same type of test on it, if that's possible. And then just on the subject of bogs in Bolton, I thought I had remembered, I think I mentioned last time that Scott Duhane, who lives on Randall Road, he used to be on the commission, said that there's a bog of some sort behind his house, and so I talked to him, and there's interestingly, a floating bog back there behind his, maybe partly on his property, partly on a neighbor's property the neighbor has a conservation restriction, I believe, on his property. But it's, Scott doesn't know anything about the vegetation, I didn't know anything about the carnivorous plants or anything like that, but he does know that it's like floating mats of, I keep forgetting the name, but sphagnum moss, yeah, of that, so there could well be carnivorous plants out there. But he said he'd be willing to have us look at it in some, spring or summer, whenever you can view the plants. It's just kind of nice to know,
Yeah, it'd be
if there's
interesting to
another
know,
bog
yeah.
habitat there, and then
Rocky
that could-
Horror.
yeah, exactly. Could it maybe, I mean, I don't know anything about what unprotected land is left in that area. Could it, knowing that, change the make that higher priority, that area or something? I don't know, for land protection and whatever.
Yeah, without looking at the open space plan, I mean, I think that's part of Hog Swamp. I think it's sort of one of the high priority,
Already.
areas,
Already.
but.
Well, anyway, it'd be kind of nice to know
Mhm.
that we have that unique habitat, because that's unique even among bogs, to have the floating mat kind, so. yeah.
So he's gonna contact you, or you'll
Well, I'll
contact him again?
contact him, yeah,
Okay.
and was it like June, those become really visible, I think you and I were out there and.
Yeah, I've always
Yeah.
seen stuff more in the summer, yeah.
Did we see that on the walk, when we did the pipeline walk?
No, that was,
I don't think we were on
you mean
his
the one where the
property.
vernal pools were? I think it's
I
on the
remember
other-
there was a bog, and I remember him saying that this was special, and he would go out there by himself.
Maybe it's just a different
Well,
kind.
this is the spot that he would sit over, right on the
Yeah.
ledge and look
Yeah,
down.
that's-
I don't know that, it's not really a bog, Scott may have just used the term.
Yeah, it's on the other side of the street, I think, behind, he lives on the other side of that street down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of a marsh. I don't know that that's got a bog
Is-
community or habitat in there.
Is this bog in danger at all of the potential pipeline?
In the
one
Welsh
behind
Pond one?
Scott's.
The
Yeah.
Welsh Pond or behind Scott's?
Well, both, I guess.
Are they? I don't think they're either.
No.
They're
No?
on the,
Okay.
so that's bogs.
I'll just say one other thing that's sort of related to the beaver aspect. I joined, I had called Mike Callahan, that was the other thing that I had said I would do. And he's the guy that we've hired to put in beaver control pipes. And I told him that we might be interested in exploring that, but we needed to kind of talk to the neighbors because we didn't know where all the property boundaries were completely and what would make sense, where to put the pipe, so we had to kind of figure that out. And, I asked him if he had ever come across any other communities that he's worked in that had the same kind of a characteristic that they were concerned about, or if, did he know anything more about it? And he didn't really, but they have a Facebook, which I'll have to get you, a beaver management
Oh,
Facebook
neat.
group.
Yeah.
And I haven't had time to really, like the first day I looked to see if anyone responded. He put the question out and invited me to the group. But I haven't had a chance to really spend any time on Facebook looking at their stuff, but they seem pretty active.
So it's just a general beaver management Facebook group, not his company's Facebook?
It's not his company's, but he had to invite me in,
Okay.
so, I could certainly
Okay.
find out what its name is, and maybe I can invite you in now that I'm a member, I don't know, but,
Oh, yeah.
it would be,
Cool.
I thought it seemed like it's an interesting group, I just haven't had a chance to go on Facebook much and read all their stuff.
Kick around, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Fifeshire, there was that, looked like beaver material accumulating on top of the dam?
Yeah, so I don't know if, well, I think it would be great if somebody else took a look over there and see if they see it. We need to continue to monitor it, I guess is what partly we should do. So we should, have people go out periodically there anyway. I mean, definitely in the fall after the dam, the spillway was put in place, there was mud that was in front of it, and so that to me definitely seemed like beaver activity. And then the stuff that's on top of the spillway was really hard to say because it just didn't seem like what I would have thought that they would have been doing to create a dam, because one, it was parallel and running, with the spillway, and two, there wasn't anything else, no mud on top of it or anything like that to sort of pack it in. So, but I also don't know why, like it didn't look like, it didn't seem to me like it would have floated on top like that. So I also didn't understand why it was there. But it could have, you know, I guess, I mean,
Well, it could have been kids, it could have been kids
Yeah,
hiking,
it
and
could
then
have
they
been.
started there and they were just picking them up and, you know,
yeah.
just laying them flat.
It
like-
just seemed a little bit odd. Anyway,
It does
I mean,
seem
and there were definitely a couple pieces that had fresh beaver cuts on them. And then there was an older one, you know, so, again, it's something we have to monitor, and,
Just take it out. If it reappears in 24 hours, it's beavers.
yeah, it's true, you're right, it's
Fair
true.
enough, yeah.
At the time that I was there, the water was going over the spillway, you know, so the water levels are high and they're going over. I did ask today, and I didn't get an email response, the engineering firm, whether or not they'd heard anything back from the state in terms of making the determination of non-compliance. So I'd like to get that, and one, we could, you
Yeah,
know,
send
see if
it
I
off.
can put it all to bed at that point. But even though we still have just the driveway work, you know, we have the pavement come spring, but.
All right, so if this is beaver activity going on there, then the thought is that it would make the water level rise too high and weaken or potentially overwhelm the dam?
Well, when we initially received the non-compliance letter from the Office of Dam Safety, they stated that we had to remove the debris, the beaver debris that was building up on the old spillway. And it was considered to be an earthen dam that could potentially, with the pressure, you know, would potentially blow out. So, again, I don't know, you know, with this new lowered dam, whether, I don't know how much building up they would have to do. I mean, it's, you know, it's a long spillway
Right.
still. The sluiceway, the spillway is only, you know, not very
Yeah,
deep,
yeah,
you know, so
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
whatever, 4 inches, so there's not a lot to build up there. I just don't know what they would do to build it up, you know, so I think, that's why I think we need to watch it, you know, we need to monitor and see kind of what's going on.
And we need to know that if they still think the same thing, that if beavers build it up, is this dam gonna be too weak to?
Yeah, and again, I don't know, first of all, if they determine that that it's non-jurisdictional, it wouldn't be up to them to make that decision. If we wanted their input into it, you know, they are the engineers,
Yeah.
who would probably say it's not good to do, but again, I don't really honestly know.
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to monitor it and to talk maybe to Beaver Solutions, you know.
It kinda seems to me like if we hadn't done this dam, if we had just taken out the old one, beavers would have dammed it anyway and given people the ponds that they wanted. It wasn't really necessary.
Well, I completely
Yeah.
stated that when the commission was looking to do that. The commission's vote was to remove the entire thing.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They wanted to remove it.
the
Yes.
commission wanted to remove the
Oh,
entire.
it was that group that wanted to.
It was the Friends of Fifeshire who didn't want it, and, you know, we came to the happy negotiated, you know,
So now
result
the-
where it was lowered so that it would be
Right.
non-jurisdictional, and
So the-
and it would still keep the impoundment. That was, you know, what they really wanted.
So the unfortunate result is that it sounds like there's a strong possibility we're gonna have to trap out the beavers to maintain this artificial dam.
I don't know about that yet, you know, I don't know.
It's too bad,
Well, I wouldn't jump to that
but.
yet.
No, I know,
That's-
but it is.
Yeah, I'll try to plan another hike out there. That's a good one with the kids to give up.
Okay, so jump back to land protection now.
Sure.
Um,
Do you wanna do the
Do
Paulson?
Paulson
Yeah.
first, yes. Carol and Liz and I went out to look at that property, and it's surprisingly beautiful, actually. It's right near the highway, and so if you can just go like this, blah, 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 it's really nice, you know, if you don't have to listen to the highway. And there seems to be potential for, if that piece were protected, if we were to accept it, potential to extend that as this beautiful wetland that goes along the highway that, you know, you could have trails through. I don't know how used it would be because it's right near the highway, but it's really, other than the highway, it's fabulous habitat there, and it's pretty, so.
Is this the one that it's hard to get to?
Yeah, it was, so we had to go through someone's yard, and it was all frozen, so we could walk on it. So during non-frozen conditions, you know, it would be I don't actually, I didn't really look at it that way. Would we be able to have a trail all the way through that wasn't flooded?
That I don't think, but in the winter conditions,
Yeah.
there's a possibility, you know, that there's a piece with frontage on Burnham Road that Atlantic Union College owns. And so the question is whether they have any intention to ever do anything with it, and whether, you know, they might potentially be able to gift it, or, I know we purchased land from them before and we got a state highway grant to do that, which I don't know whether they still have that kind of grant program or not, but, you know, that's something that if you did decide you wanted to accept this one, then, you know, I think we could look into.
Aren't they in some kind of financial difficulties? Atlantic Union?
Yeah, I asked Rona Balco today, and she thought that they were actually getting back and up and running again. So she gave me a couple names of people there that are not that they are like the real estate division or whatever, but that she thought would be likely to know, like the right person to contact.
And then on the other side of the property is the town-owned land that's not conservation land, it's just town.
Yeah, it was taken by tax title.
But it's all wet anyway, so it would be unlikely that the town could do anything with it. And
Right, it was a gorgeous pond.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful pond. It's really nice out there.
A lot of beaver activity.
Yeah, a lot of it. So, you know, I guess there's a potential that could be transferred to conservation.
Yep.
So, there's kind of potential there. It's just the question, do we think along the highway makes sense? Would people use it and go there, or is it still worth it just for wildlife habitat to have?
Yeah, I don't think people are gonna go there particularly, except for, as I
Except
said,
for
in
me.
the winter. Well, in the winter, you know, I mean, when it's frozen, and I think people in the neighborhood might, you know. But nobody had been there, right? So nobody in the neighborhood, we didn't see any tracks other than wildlife tracks, which we
Right.
saw quite a bit of,
Right.
you know.
It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is nice. It really is. Yeah, and then, you know,
And
if
the
we
question
didn't,
of
So I think
maintenance.
the main thing that we were looking for was to see whether there was any encroachment or any hazardous materials or anything that would give us cause to not want to accept it. And we didn't see that.
Right. So,
Right.
it sounds like a great, you know,
Right.
it's a nice addition to the town.
So the process, I didn't pull up and send you, although I thought I did a while ago, but the process for accepting gifts. And we have like a, I don't know if we call it a policy, but it was sort of a step-by-step procedure as to, you know, how that kind of happens. Since we have new town council, you know, I think it might be worth having, well, first of all, the Conservation Commission can accept a gift, but so the selectmen also have to accept it. So normally, I think it would be good for, if you guys are interested in accepting it, for me to get out the policy and talk to Don and let him know that we're interested in doing this, and does he want to recommend we talk to council about our procedures, you know. In the past, the, Bracken and Lucas was recommending that we do, you know, a title search, which costs money. And I can't remember whether there was title insurance or not. So that's just another thing that, again, I would wanna see with this council, what their recommendation is one way or another.
And a survey would probably cost, is that part of
We
it?
didn't usually do a survey, we kind of just, you know, we used whatever their deed reference was, and we maybe used assessor's information. I mean, in some cases you might do a survey or require one, but, I mean, in a small case like this, I don't think we're looking at spending money, you know,
Yeah.
very much money, you know, so. I mean, I think, you know, the family wants to give it as, they feel as though that's what the father wanted to do, but they also, none of them are interested in paying the taxes on it, you know,
Yeah,
which is not a
that's a-
huge amount of money, but they're
Right.
just, they have no tie to Bolton anymore, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So,
And I think we used the conservation fund, our fund there for title search in the past, right? Wasn't it one of the few things we actually used it for?
yeah, we may have,
So,
Yeah.
if, you know, if we need the money there. It seems like the three of you walking it, it's worth having, and
I guess
has
so.
potential to connect in with other
Not much
systems in the
negative.
future.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if you were able to talk to Don and just see what our follow-up procedures were, it seemed like the logical way to go.
okay.
How many acres is it?
I think it was 1.4, does that sound right to you? I have it here. Yeah, approximately 1.4. Family owned it. The family's owned the reference land since the 1940s. Roy K. Paulson, last owner of record, died in July 2011. His request was to deed the title of the land to the town of Bolton, as thanks for allowing his family to enjoy the peace and beauty of the town through the many years.
Before 95 wasn't as loud.
Yeah, I think that they had contiguous land before 495 with land on the other side. So
Very noisy.
yeah. So do you want to take a vote on that? I think that might be
Oh, okay.
worth taking a vote to move forward to, because that way I can let him know, that
Okay.
the commission's interested in accepting it and.
So how do I do that? We just say, take a vote, or?
Yeah, that you, a motion to.
Oh, okay.
Can we
Just make a motion to
proceed
take a
with
vote?
the-
Right, that we're interested in proceeding to accept the gift, but, just need to check with the town administrator and town council on the steps that they want us to follow.
So I'm making a motion on taking a vote? I'm not really sure what I'm.
No, you're
Make a
making a
motion.
motion
Motion.
to do those
Receiving
things.
land.
Somebody else make a
Oh,
motion.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know what you're saying.
Can I make a motion to, in favor of receiving the gift of land so that we may pursue conversations with town council to that effect?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. I didn't understand.
Which is my left hand?
Area that-
Okay, so do you second it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we still have time.
Which one should we do next? Maybe Ross.
So since the last meeting, when the Rosses came in at the end of the night, which it worked out nicely, I think, for the most part, I had contacted the Bolton Conservation Trust and just asked them to see whether or not they had somebody who would be able to work with them to try to see whether or not there was some option that would, allow the land to remain open and still afford them, some return. And they were gonna talk about it, I think, at their next meeting, which I can't remember if it's tomorrow night. I think it might be tomorrow night. I don't think they met last week.
Selectmen?
No, the Conservation Trust.
Oh.
So anyway, I put that in place, and, we'll have to just monitor and see. I think hopefully by the next meeting, we should have heard from them on that, and then we can know whether or not we wanna at least give a recommendation to the selectmen about Chapter 61A or not.
Open space plan update. So I contacted that student who was interested in possibly writing a grant proposal through that PROMASA, whatever that's called, that program. And he said he wasn't sure yet. He wanted to talk to his supervisor and would get back to me this week, which he hasn't yet. But I wonder if he's gotten a number of options for projects that perhaps he's choosing from. I don't know which way he's gonna go.
I talked to some contacts at WPI about, gee, isn't there some engineer who might want to do this as a thesis? And they suggested, but they thought that might be reasonable, and the person to contact would be the dean of the civil engineering school. So, who should contact them?
Huh?
Should I contact
Oh,
them?
sure.
I could do it, I've been sort of
Yeah.
working on it, and kind of holding it a bit, so I can do that.
Sure.
James,
And then,
he's thinking
so,
about making a
and Liz.
substantial contribution this year. He's been contemplating big contribution, legacy gift. Oh, and by the way.
Did you actually have any more communication with the consultant that you've been in touch with, Susan? Or?
Since the last time, I think she's insisting that there's money through this DCR grant that we could use. And so it doesn't have to be tied to
And you saw my email
Yeah,
from
I saw your,
them.
yeah, I saw your email, so,
And it doesn't have to be tied to a land acquisition,
yeah.
So do you wanna call DCR yourself then?
Yeah, I think that's probably the way,
Yeah, I
just to clarify.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what they sent me, you know, was,
Yeah.
that's not how it works,
Right,
but,
right. I'll call them.
okay. Do you have, the name Celia Reichel? Or Melissa Cryan, I forget which one.
I have, Melissa Cryan, I don't think it's from DCR, she's from, the open space.
Yeah, I mean, she deals with the open space and recreation
Right,
plans.
right.
And Rachel is the one, I mean, Celia Reichel is the
Okay.
one who deals with the grants, though.
Okay.
So,
I'll call her.
they're both, I
I'll
don't
call Melissa too.
DCR is what?
Department of Conservation and Recreation.
I still think of it as design change
I
request.
know, yeah, I had different phrases for all the acronyms we used, and it took me a long time to let go of the old ones and take in the new ones. Okay, so that's it for open space.
Yeah.
Pipeline update? That I don't have.
Yeah, all my notes are in my car, which is in the shop right now. The Kinder Morgan has scheduled their open houses, which is part of what they need to do as part of the FERC process. We decided, Karen and myself, possibly Carol, we're gonna try to attend the one in Berlin, which is the 28th, 27th?
Yeah, next week.
Yeah. Yeah. We in talking, we were trying to figure out, it's gonna be open to questions, and there's.
Well,
I
I've
think-
learned something on that.
Okay.
It's not, the format is not like the meeting we had.
Okay.
Where they make a presentation and they open it for questions. It's more like, what they're saying, it's more like a trade show. And you go in and they have people there to answer your questions.
Okay.
And they try to get you to agree to the survey. And so you go around and they've got different not kiosks, but, boards where they're gonna have information that you can pick up and so forth. So I don't know that there's any particular time that you get to ask a question,
Yeah,
but you
right.
can ask your question repeatedly if you want,
Okay.
or to whomever you want.
Well, and we can ask
You know.
more too, because when we talked the other night, we thought it was gonna be a Q&A period, and it was gonna be a
Yeah.
limited amount of time. We figured, realistically, we had 20 questions.
Yeah.
If we can get, we were gonna come up with 3 questions. If we're able to ask 2, we're probably lucky in the time span with everybody else that wants to chime in and has questions. So we were trying to figure out what was the best question to use, what was our biggest unanswered. And we had a really good idea, and it was a question that Carol had originally that never really got answered, that was phrased fantastically. But now we can probably look at that entire list, which you had sent back around to us, which was great, looking through that again, and just kind of go down with them and try to check, get as many answers as we can, at least try to ask.
Yeah.
We can also take the opportunity to listen to other people's questions too. I mean, we should be kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's an email, I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but there's an email that I got and forwarded to me, I guess, and they said that the more, this is sort of trying to promote more people to go. The more people we can get to go to the open houses, the better. We want FERC to understand the magnitude of the opposition. So you want to go there and say, we're from Bolton, our town's passed a resolution, and we're against, the alteration to the wetlands, and we're against the alteration to the conservation land and conversion of our, restrictions and ag lands and all that stuff or whatever, right? And then, so they wanted to, they were also promoting to have people both inside and outside at different places. So what I heard today was that they're trying to get people to go to the one that's closest to them. So Berlin would be the closest one, but then if you have time to go to another one and you don't have to be inside, you could be outside, or you can, with information. So based on the open houses for similar projects in the past, here's the best guess on what the night will look like, both inside and outside the official open houses. And they said they'll know more after the first one, which is in Milford, New Hampshire on the 27th. So inside that open house, Please be nice. Belligerent opponents can cause the permitting agencies to become more sympathetic to project proponents. Please do not take antagonistic approach that could bring sympathy to Kinder Morgan. We want us, the affected human, plant, animal communities, to be the ones getting the sympathy. Kinder Morgan will most likely have maps and info at a series of tables or stations, sort of like a trade show. They'll be answering questions, promoting their project, and lobbying landowners to sign survey permission letters. While the old familiar KM faces will be out in force, they will most likely be joined by consultants they've hired who will be doing the actual studies. We should be asking questions nicely to Kinder Morgan consultants. We need these consultants to push Kinder Morgan to do the studies more thoroughly and correctly. On the open house survey, you can request sample questions. They've got some sample questions, I guess, that you can go to. FERC staff will most likely also be attending to answer FERC process questions, discuss the pre-filing process, and encourage participation in the FERC proceedings. Sometimes other state and federal agencies, EPA, Army Corps, Fish and Wildlife, etc., will have tables as well. Use this opportunity to make friends with FERC and other state and federal agencies. Again, you can look at sample questions. Don't forget that more than 30% of the pipeline applications submitted since 2006 were withdrawn or denied. Having lots of friends in important places can help us put this project to rest too. Kinder Morgan should be providing refreshments and are supposedly using local caterers. Even if you aren't the type to come and ask questions, just come and be counted and have a snack. Encourage your friends and neighbors to come too. We want to show both Kinder Morgan and FERC that our numbers are strong. Want to do more inside? It would help a lot if you could hang out and listen to what Kinder Morgan and consultants are saying to others and respond appropriately. For example, if a Kinder Morgan person says something misleading or wrong to someone, it's totally appropriate for another nearby person to nicely ask for clarification or suggest something else. What I heard about was, then as you move on to the next table with that particular member of the public, you could strike up a conversation and provide a handout. It's critical for these interactions to be civil and polite. It would also be great help if you would take notes and report back on what you hear so we can better prepare for open houses, which fall later in the schedule, and eventual scoping sessions. And then they had outside the open house, Kinder Morgan supporters will most likely be out in force, so our side should be there too. We need to have good presence. This is where there can be protest signs and art information. Set up early to be sure to catch any media that might be showing up and provide materials with key points we want to make. Example, need for this particular pipeline, job, benefits, and energy efficiency, renewables, something to counteract pipeline to bring down electricity costs, etc. And then they said help with quick anonymous survey as people leave the open house, maybe just 1 or 2 questions. Did you learn anything new about the project tonight, or are you in favor? So, anyway, I can forward that around if I didn't. Did I send it to you guys? No, then I must have just got it like Friday and
It
didn't.
came from Betsy,
In the past, it's been kind of nebulous where the actual line is gonna go through.
Yeah.
Have they since
It's-
finally released information that says, here's where we think we want to put it?
Could be a good question.
Somewhat, I mean,
Not
Carol
exactly.
has a decent mock-up of just going by basically waypoints that they say, right? I mean,
Yeah.
a
I didn't put it in
fairly
the
good
entire
idea.
line. I did it in the conservation area, just tried to show where it
Certain
hit certain
areas,
parcels. But they did, so then there's more chatter, and I don't know if you've seen it, maybe through Betsy or somebody else, but Mass Audubon has sent out a letter. Did I send that to you?
it did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, maybe you can, I haven't read it again, but it was something to the effect that the consultants for Kinder Morgan were asking municipalities to provide information that, and in their letters, when they requested this, they were claiming it to be, I think they were claiming it to be public information requests, but it wasn't, they weren't public information requests. And they're required to get this information, and the way they were asking, going about it, Mass Audubon was saying was illegal, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, why was it illegal?
Well, I have to read it again to tell you.
They're supposed to do it, yeah. Subject information requests,
I don't know if I made a copy of that.
yet no legal basis exists for opposing several of the obligations on municipal boards.
Well,
It's,
what kind of information that wouldn't be public information?
there's well, it's, I mean, it's, any known existing or proposed public or private drinking water wells, reservoirs, or springs within 300 feet of proposed alignment.
I see.
So it's listing all that stuff, any locally significant roads, scenic areas, and rivers. A lot of it's not in, she just kind of threw some of them here. Planned residence or subdivision, That was, it was hard to say, I mean, I forget what they have to submit to FERC. They have to submit a lot of things to FERC, especially when it comes to drinking wells.
I mean, I would
Vernal
think
pools,
they
they're-
know what the path is.
Right, well, and to a
Well,
certain
so
extent, they're
basically-
supposed to do all of this work. They're supposed to say, this is our line, and this is what it
Right.
affects, and da-da-da. And they're kind of going to the
Turning the
towns
table.
more saying, okay, this is our line, tell us what it affects here. And, Mass Audubon was saying, well, that's kind of incumbent upon you.
Yeah.
To say
Or
what
should
your
be
line,
on
and,
that, right.
the town shouldn't be doing all the work
Yeah.
for you.
Right. So, the planning board got a letter and the Board of Health got a letter. I didn't get a letter. So they were looking for information, and Don told them, that, without further parcel information, we couldn't provide anything. So if they can't be specific about the
That's excellent,
parcels, we
yeah.
can't tell them.
So at the open house next week, you folks are going, but are there other Bolton boards that are gonna be there? Like
That I don't know.
the selectmen should be going?
Don was away on vacation till today, so I haven't really talked to him about that. I
Maybe
don't
the
know.
planning board people, I don't know.
I don't think planning board's all that involved. I do think that, so when Karen and Brian and I met, again, we talked about it, wanting to let advisory now, make sure that they are a little bit more up and that there could be some financial obligation. There's some information that a resident put together that has kinds of bylaws that the town could be taking up now and putting in place now, so that when and if FERC was to say, we are going to be granting this, what kinds of conditions would town of Bolton like? We could say, we would like our bylaws to be upheld, and in our bylaws, the work hours are 9 to 4 or 9 to 5 or whatever, Monday through Friday, not 7 to 9 at night on a summer night, that kind of thing. So I don't know, my understanding is that the Stop the Pipeline group is meeting tonight, and that they are probably looking at divvying up responsibility to talk to different boards and committees to see what they can put in place. When I got the information, I sent it to Dawn and to the town planner, and I haven't really talked to Dawn about it, because when I got it, he was headed out on vacation, so I don't think he was thinking about that too much then. And the planner, she said she'd talk about it with the planning board, but she didn't think that they were looking at changing a lot of their, she didn't know what they would change in terms of, they deal mostly with subdivision, they're not necessarily looking at all the town ordinances, So I think it is something that, it needs to go to the selectmen for some of that, and I don't know where they are on that. Although, so they do have it on their agenda for Thursday night to talk about, there's been a request for them to put their resolution in before town meeting. So there may be some further discussion based on whatever comes out tonight. They may try to ask some other questions.
And maybe folks from the Conservation Trust could attend the open house also?
Well, Betsy
Yeah.
well, she's one of the members on the trust, so I'm sure
Okay.
she's
So there's
relaying that to
overlap
them.
there.
Yeah,
but-
they're aware of it.
But, the other group that they talked about was, Board of Health, so I couldn't get the link to a letter that had been issued by the Deerfield Board of Health, but there had been a letter, and you said it better than I did the last time, but
It was a brilliant attempt by Deerfield, and it probably wouldn't stand up in court. It would probably get struck down. But I felt it was fascinating that they put this forward, and then it was never really responded to. And the next thing was, well, we're not going through Deerfield anymore. We're going to go with New Hampshire. What they did was they actually used Citizens United against Kinder Morgan. They basically said that the Supreme Court says that we can treat these companies as individuals when it comes to their freedom of speech, that this is a criminal enterprise because of all the things they've been found guilty, all their past transgressions. And we have bylaws basically saying that you can't force us to do business with a criminal entity. They're not allowed to have contracts here in town. Done. That's it. Done. If they're an individual, then they've broken X, Y, and Z. You can't force them upon
It is
us.
pretty interesting.
It's over with.
Yeah, it
And,
is
you know, it was one of those, like, in court, like, it's a tough battle, but companies like Kinder Morgan, they don't wanna open Citizens United. They don't wanna bring that back to any court. They're very happy with how it stands. So it was kind of interesting when they said, well, we're gonna challenge you on that. You wanna go to court over that? And you know what? We're gonna go through New Hampshire. We're gonna go through New Hampshire, don't worry about it.
Similar bylaw where we don't wanna do business with.
Not that I'm aware of.
We gotta make one really
We'd have
fast.
to look at what, yeah, what it said, but,
That
you know, it was
sounds like right up your alley.
yeah.
You drafted that other one.
I have to see
Attorney.
where I have that letter, you know, because I suppose we
Yeah, I
could find
couldn't
whatever
find, my
law,
link
or
didn't go to that
whatever
anymore.
whatever they were connecting it to in their town bylaws. But, you know, like, again, it probably wouldn't have a leg to stand on, but it's interesting. And I know, like, Kinder Morgan does not want to, like, they do not want to mess with Citizens United. They're happy with where it stands. Let's not open it up. Let's not discuss it. You know, it was
Some of
just
the-
really fascinating. I was like, oh,
Some
that's
of
a
the
good
other
try.
bylaws that the town could, you know, have would be, related to noise and odor
Yeah, but that sounds
and.
like a better one.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
you can go on multiple,
Yeah,
you know,
right,
and
right.
And that's the thing is, after all the open houses, there's another opportunity for us to submit to FERC. You know, or any, you know, complaints, questions, so we figured, you know, we should definitely go to the open house with our questions, propose our questions again, and that way we're able to say, you know, okay, this, well, yeah, maybe they will answer them all satisfactorily, but more likely than not, we'll say, you know, these are the questions we still haven't had answers to, this is the answer they gave to this question, that's not really satisfactory. And, you know, possibly if you can do a little more research on how Deerfield was coming at them, it was, you know, adding things like that. So we do have 2 more chances, right?
Yep.
To submit to FERC, but one of them is after all the open houses. So that's kind of the next step, is to go to the open house, you know, ask our questions, you know, see what we can do and find out.
So, the resolution that the selectmen made, that we wanna put it on the town meeting, as part of the town meeting, what's the benefit of that? The town would vote on what? On the resolution?
Yeah, the town would vote on the resolution, not just the selectmen representing the
To
residents.
say, we as a town
Yeah,
are all behind
yeah,
this.
I don't know any other legal aspect of it, but they'll talk about it on Thursday.
I see.
You'll hear about it, I'm sure then.
And maybe
And
so,
when
maybe
the
not, too, you
bylaw
never
that we
know.
pass is non-selective, so
There's
that
a
will
lot of
apply
people
to
in town
Century
that are-
Mill
Yep.
and everything else.
You
Yep.
know,
Oh, yes,
It
that's
can,
a good point.
what? Are you kidding me?
really?
Frack gas is American, it's good, clean, and wholesome.
Don't go there.
But no, that's what I'm saying.
Don't go there.
When it goes in front of town, like,
Oh, really?
you don't be surprised that there's an enclave of town that
Oh,
listens to the commercials, and they're sure the commercials are telling them the truth.
Don't go there.
Yeah, so,
Well,
Really?
I think it's important
You know, so it'd be
for us to
interesting.
see
Like, I don't think
the
we-
different sides, is it?
I don't
'Cause,
think
you know,
we should debate the merits or.
no,
Yeah,
I'm talking when
no,
it goes to,
what
when it
does
goes
that
to town meeting, that's when, you know, when it opens up to town meeting, it can,
it's nice
you
to
never know where it
what
goes, it's not just
people are
we're
thinking.
gonna open it up so the whole town gets behind it, like, maybe they don't. You don't know.
Maybe the whole town meeting doesn't want to decide the question of gas or not.
Right.
They want to just talk about the pipeline.
Fairly true, yeah.
I hope.
So, but I mean, that's kind of where that aspect of it stands. So, you know, it'd be nice, hopefully the town reiterates and says, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
we did it at town meeting as well. Cause I think in our first under FERC, that was part of it too, saying, as a town, we've already resolved that,
Right.
you know, we
So-
don't want this project, and here's some of the reasons.
Other town selectmen have put out similar resolutions.
Yes.
And do we know if those towns have voted on those resolutions?
I don't really know now, I know some have as a town, I thought like Ashby or Ashburnham or somebody up there had, but that was a while ago too, like I think they did it, you know, early on. I haven't followed that question.
It's not too late to put it on the town warrant?
The selectmen probably can do that, you know, I mean, our articles had to be in, but
Right,
it's
I
not
thought
like
there was a deadline.
there is a deadline, I don't know that citizens petition articles have come to the deadline
Oh, I
yet.
see.
And so I think the question is if the selectmen will put it on, then they don't have to go to a citizens petition to do it. And,
As long as it doesn't affect the budget, it's probably easier to get it in later.
well, but I think, I think that it hasn't gone to the warrant. I mean, it hasn't gone to be the printer, you know, so that's really the
That's
very
the
big
big
one.
one, right? You have to be able to get it
Still,
online.
No.
a time frame,
Yeah.
there's still some time.
And even with that, we've had special town meetings within a town meeting, you know, so if something comes up that's after, then it hasn't made it into the original one, they've had special town meetings
That's
within a
true,
town
yeah.
meeting, so there's ways of getting things in, yeah.
When is it been scheduled?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember what it is offhand, but it's,
The town meeting?
in the
Yeah,
packet that I
it's
sent you, probably with all the budget stuff, there was a calendar, and the calendar has all the deadlines and when town meeting is. It's in May, it's usually like
Yeah.
the first Monday, or second Monday or
I
something.
might be traveling.
The only other thing we talked about, and I didn't move on, and now we're probably at a point where we probably, well, maybe have to wait till after the open house, but maybe not, was you mentioned possibly writing a letter to the administration, which made some sense.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
To Governor Baker. Was kind of in favor of frac gas, but just saying, letting them know, you know, as a town, this is something we're concerned about, you know, we voted, you know, in favor, we'd like your support on this,
Yeah.
congratulations on your victory. You know, there's a series of open houses now, we'd love it if yourself or members of the administration can attend these open houses to hear some of our concerns. You know, we'd like you to.
So you want me to do that? I didn't do it yet.
You know, if it's something you can draft,
Yeah.
well, I guess I wonder how everybody else feels. It can't hurt. I mean, it's nice for a due
Yeah.
diligence thing too, and it'd be nice for them to
Okay.
hear, but I don't know if you have the time,
I don't know, I'll see.
you know. I wonder if we have a similar letter from another, because trying to think, you had mentioned it, but I wonder if you had mentioned it because somebody else had done it or somebody suggested it. I mean, we don't have to reinvent
Yeah.
the wheel, you know, if
Fine, it
this is
doesn't
similar
have to
letter.
be fancy, I mean, it's
Right,
just, you know,
just
telling
letting
them that
them
this
know.
open house is nearby and, you know, Bolton has passed this resolution and these, you know,
It's
we
a
have some
concern for us
concerns
and
and
we'd
we
like
think, yeah, it'd be great if you could attend, if not that one, you know, another one, so you can sort of, but along the, you know, the main thing I think to point out in that one is that we're part of a lateral line that, you know, not the main line, and so it would be
Right.
good to attend an open house that's really, you know, where questions might be more
Yeah.
geared towards that.
Do you know
And-
which way he favors or what his, where he
My
stands?
line on that, and you never know, you know, there's a lot of speculation where he got a lot of his money from, which you don't know. He was governor-elect for less than a week. I forget what the question was. It wasn't exactly about natural gas or anything. It was about something else, and his answer was basically, yeah, you know, I think it's kind of criminal how, you know, we've kind of let our gas infrastructure go, and, you know, we really gotta look at our energy needs and increasing, you know, gas supply in the state, and we're really behind on that, and it's something we really gotta get moving on. And it was like, well, you know, you've been governor less than a week, and I don't even think that's the question it was about, but, you know, thanks for confirming where you got all your money
Yeah.
from. It was
So,
really, really
I would say
appreciated.
that, also, so MACC has, confirmed, I believe, that, the new Secretary of Environmental Affairs is gonna be one of their keynote, or, no, not the keynote, he's gonna be, giving a welcome. And then, oh, sorry, no, I'm getting confused because I'm looking at the Mass Land Trust Conference. I think he's gonna be doing the keynote at MACC's meeting, and MACC is also holding a workshop about the pipeline, which is interesting. And then at the Land Trust one, they have the secretary involved in the welcome, and then they have James McGovern doing the keynote, and he also had a strong letter against
Opposed, yeah.
the pipeline. So I think there's some messages that, you know, and I think they're also being invited to participate, you know, in these large conference type of groups, you know, to see. Anyway,
But yeah, we don't honestly know, so I was part of like, you know, it wouldn't hurt to send them a letter saying, this is, sit down, you know, what are some of your constituents, you know, we're kind of opposed to this and we'd like your support, and
Yeah, I mean, we should identify that it's major conservation land, and
Yeah.
it's a big chunk of Bolton in our town, and, you know, maybe he can relate to that.
well, and the APRs too, that it
Mhm.
allows for FERC to supersede, you know, state laws, that this is, you know, this is written into law, that
Right.
you can't, you know, it takes what, 2/3 of the legislature to make any changes to APRs, and they're just removing your power completely, and, you know, they usually don't like to hear, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
somebody's removing my power, wait a minute.
I make a motion to adjourn, unless there's other
Oh, I
stuff.
thought they were gonna.
No, that's all I had on pipeline, I don't,
Yeah,
I
So
think
can I
that's
just have
kind of
one
where we were
question?
at, yeah.
So, for the Vickery stuff, did you folks meet with the attorney for that?
just wait, we haven't
Are
yet.
you going to?
Thursday, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, so I sent him a summary and then sort of a chronology of what had occurred, and then we'll talk on Thursday, we're gonna meet them Thursday.
Yes, I can't wait to see what an attorney's, you know, interpretation of all this convoluted stuff is.
And he will be there. He will be
He's
at our
gonna attend our
meeting.
meeting as well.
Someone who really knows the law,
Yeah.
for instance.
Well, we're gonna hope.
We hope.
Say, of
I was-
course,
we
if you
haven't
get-
met him.
If you get two lawyers on opposing sides, you know, they interpret that law completely differently.
Well,
That's
so,
not it.
so there may be an opportunity for them to talk to each other too before the meeting, you know, that was one thing that might, who knows?
Yeah.
Would it be
no,
possible to
that's-
share some of the facts that he may dig up with us before, I mean, not deliberating via email, but if there's certain facts that
Probably
would be
should.
applicable,
That's okay.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna be able to give us for facts necessarily. He's gonna hear more information from us, look at the plans and get, you know, sort of grounded on it. So we'll see,
Okay.
whatever there is.
Okay.
Excellent.
Good. Do we have anything else?
Well, I know you have to leave, but do we have anything else? I don't have anything
No,
else.
that was it.
So.
Okay, all right, so I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right,
Okay.
Teresa?